But yesterday, the comedian once called America's dad was found guilty of sexual assault. And right now, we are joined by the attorney who represents multiple Cosby accusers, Gloria Allred. And joining us live from Las Vegas is one of his accusers, Lisa Lott Lublin. Welcome to the show, Lisa. Welcome, Gloria.
Thank you, Joy. Thank you, Joy.
So, you represent 33 Cosby's accusers, 3 of whom testified against him. Describe the emotion in the courtroom when he was found guilty.
Well, I think there was a lot of anticipation about what the verdict was going to be, and people inhaled, and many of the accusers could not believe what they were hearing because they did not expect him to be found guilty of all 3 charges of aggravated indecent sexual assault against Andrea Constant. And there was elation because women are now being believed in a court of law.
Right.
Not just on #MeToo, Joy, but where they have been under oath to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God, where they have subjected themselves, like my client Lisa Lott Lublin has, to a very vigorous and ugly cross-examination, smear campaign, which attempts to discredit her testimony and that of the other accusers. But she and the other 4, and also Andrea Constant, they withstood that withering cross-examination. They told what they said was their truth, and they fought back against that defense team and the cross-examination. And I believe that the jury believed them, and it's a beautiful thing to finally see women being believed.
That's right.
Yeah,
it certainly is.
You could see the emotion. They were just overcome with so much emotion, the accusers were, after the verdict was read. But Bill Cosby had an outburst in the courtroom yesterday. Can you tell us what happened?
Yes, it was during the argument where the prosecution wanted Bill Cosby's bail to be revoked or increased from $1 million upward, because he has very huge net assets. And the prosecutor was suggesting that he might flee. That he has a private plane that he would have access to. And that's when Bill Cosby suddenly shouted out at a very inappropriate time that he called the prosecutor by a name that I won't repeat.
They said it on CNN.
Okay, well,
in open court.
Feel free to say it.
Yeah.
And he said he doesn't have a private jet, as though he was talking about somebody else when the prosecutor was referring to him.
He also started laughing at some point,
too.
too.
Laughing is a lot inappropriate. He clearly has an anger management problem, and we saw it there. Of course, he didn't testify under oath at this hearing. At the trial, he invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination, which he had a right to do. But his testimony came in when he was under oath in the civil deposition in Andrea's civil lawsuit. And also, they heard the jury heard his interview with the police some years ago. So they did hear from him, but now they actually heard from him shouting in the courtroom, not the jury, but the judge and all the rest of us.
And not very smart right before sentencing.
Not smart, right.
Not smart.
Before the judge, who were we doing the sentencing?
Not smart.
But by the way, the judge, however, did not increase his bail, did not revoke his bail, although he said the prosecutor could file a motion on that.
Yes.
He didn't think at this point that Mr. Cosby was a flight risk.
And released him on bail, which was shocking to me.
He might be fitted for a GPS, is that right?
Yes, and of course they took his passport as well, so he can't leave the country. But on the other hand, we hope that he will not flee. And that he will be there to be accountable at sentencing. The judge talked about the fact that he's 80 years old, his health and so forth. I still think he needs to be accountable.
Yeah.
He hurt a woman. He drugged her. He sexually assaulted her when she was incapacitated. The jury so found. And I think it's time for him to be accountable, whatever his age is. He needs to step up, and he needs to be sentenced to at least some time in custody.
I agree.
Lisa, I have a question for you. You were teaching in your 6th grade class when the verdict came in. How did you hear the news, and what was your reaction?
I got a call from my husband, Benjamin, and he said, there's a verdict, there's a verdict. Well, I immediately was like, let me know what it is, but call me back. I still had 15 minutes of class left before my lunch.
Wow.
And he ended up calling me about 3-4 minutes later, and he said, it's guilty, it's guilty. And I said, are you playing with me? And he says, no. And I said, are you sure? And he says, it's guilty, it's guilty. all 3 accounts. And when he said all 3 accounts, that's when I realized he was serious. This was it. This really happened. And I just responded with, you got to call in. I've got to get out of here, and I'll call you back. I jumped out of my seat. I kind of walked over to the phone, and I called my office manager, and I said, he's guilty. Cosby's guilty, and I've got to go. And she's like, is that a good thing? Because I started to well up and shaking and crying pretty much. And I said, yeah, it's a good thing, but I'm losing it, and I've got to go. So she said, go, go. She said, I've got you, just go. So I had like 10 minutes with the kids left, and I stopped for a moment, and I said, okay, I got to pull myself together before these kids see me falling apart. And I just turned around, hung up the phone, walked back to my desk. I pulled out my sub-notes. I grabbed my items. I looked at the clock, and it was pretty much time to go. And I told the kids, hey, have a great day, and I'll see you guys later. And shoot them out the room. And I collected my items and started walking out the door. And then the shaking and the nerves in my stomach just started turning and turning. And then I realized I was about to get in a car and drive home. And again, I had to say, look, you've got to pull yourself together here, because you're going to be on the road in a vehicle, and you don't even know what's happened in the last 2 minutes.
Lise?
You know, focus.
Lise, I thank you, one, for your bravery, and thank you for being here. You say that in 1989, Cosby offered to mentor you, yet invited you to a hotel, gave you a drink, then you blacked out and woke up 2 days later.
Wow.
When did you realize something was wrong? Can you take us back there?
Yeah, before I blacked out, he did ask me to sit with him, and I ended up sitting between his legs with my back to him, and he continued to stroke my hair back in a petting motion. And I remember sitting there and having a kind of a self-talk of saying to myself, what has this got to do with improvisation? I don't understand what's going on. This feels odd. I could feel his legs against my arms, and I didn't know if I should leave my arms to my side or if I should pick them up and put them on top. And even through that dialogue, it was like, this is so odd. I don't understand it. For me, I felt like it was 2 days later. I don't know how long it was, but I did wake up at home. And like I said, I thought I had gotten sick, and I was sleeping for 2 days.
Wow. Okay. All right. Gloria and Lise are sticking around, and we'll be right back with more. We're back with Gloria Allred, and joining us live from Las Vegas, one of Bill Cosby's accusers, Lise Locke Lublin. Oh, like the city in Poland, Lublin.
Yeah.
You know, I have to ask you something, Gloria, because we've been reading a lot about these guys who were accused in the Me Too movement of trying to make a comeback. I was reading about Batali today, and people talk about Lauer and different people wanting to come back. What do you make of that? Do you think they should?
Well, I think each one has to be evaluated on the facts that are alleged and the person alleging them on the internet or elsewhere. Obviously, in the court of public opinion on #MeToo, there are no rules, there are no standards. There's no way of actually knowing.
But it is the court of public opinion we're talking about.
100%.
Because if they want to come back on television, I don't know if they can. Do you think?
Well, I think the public has decided that if there are enough women and the type of women that they will believe, then there will be consequences for the person who was accused, even without any civil lawsuit being filed or adjudicated, even without any criminal case ever being prosecuted or decided in a court of law.
Do you think Al Franken should be allowed to come back and run for office?
Well, I mean, look, I like Al Franken, but I can't let that get in the way of numerous accusations against him. And I just think that, look, those who hurt women, if the public believes that those persons who are accused have hurt women, have sexually harassed them or raped or sexually assaulted or all of the above, then the men have to be accountable in some way.
Right.
And they have to be accountable, by the way, even if they have assaulted other men.
Yeah. Now,
so
Gloria,
that's
there's,
what counts.
there's actually another one today. Former NBC News anchor Tom Brokaw was just accused of sexual assault by 2 women, one of whom was is former NBC News war correspondent Linda Vester. He has denied it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, again, I do think that that has to be investigated and has to be evaluated. And I don't represent her, so I'm not going to take a position on that. But I do think that the claims have to be taken seriously. Women's word about what happened has to be taken seriously. And there have to be consequences if people believe it. That's all. This is now the age that women are not going to be silenced. They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to be bullied by powerful figures. They are going to speak their truth. And now the question is, are they going to be believed? And how many women does it take to make accusations for one woman to be believed over the denial of a powerful man?
Right.
That's what is at issue
One of the
in
victims,
not only this issue,
I was
but
watching
others.
one of the victims on TV, and she said it took a male comedian to start the whole thing off on Bill Cosby.
Hannibal Buress.
Yeah.
After all the women coming out against him, one male comedian started it.
One male
someone buy that guy a
African-American.
beer.
Right, African-American comedian, that's right.
Yep.
Well, our thanks to Gloria Allred and Liesl Lublin. Michael Avenatti is up next.